Hi, this is Jonathan Weinberg, and this is Drawing with Fountain Pens. If you watch this channel, you'll know that one of my favorite pens is the Lamy 2000. It's a lot of people's favorite pens, and it's truly a classic. Um, I've reviewed it before, and it was first introduced in the 1960s, and you can read all about it or watch my video to hear more about its particular history. And I like it so much that I use it all the time. And often when I go on trips, this is a pen that I take. Somehow or other, a few months ago, I couldn't find it anywhere. And I was sure that it had been lost. So what should I do? What I ended up doing is I went out and I bought another one. And this is a problem when you have too many fountain pens and you can't find your fountain pens because you have so many. Anyway, I bought another one, but I decided not to get the same kind of nib, that I would get a oblique nib or OB nib. Now that's a nib that has been cut on a slight angle, a left or right angle, and it writes a bit like an architect nib or a stub nib. I always wanted to try one, and I figured, well, I'll get this one, and if I find the other one, then it won't be a waste. And guess what? After about a month looking around, I did find the other one. So now I have both of those. And I do also have another Lamy 2000. This is the chrome version, which I think is very beautiful, but not as comfortable to hold, heavy. And this one is an extra fine. So I thought, oh, why don't I do a quick video trying out the different nibs and just, seeing how the different ones write, and that would help somebody who was thinking about buying a Lamy 2000 and deciding which nib to get, depending on how they write. Now, everybody has a different experience with a pen, so, there's no guarantee also when you buy a pen from a company. That's the thing about a fountain pen, that they will all write in the same way. So, ideally, I guess it would be to buy it from a pen dealer who would let you sort of try it out first, in terms of how that goes. Oblique nibs, I will say, like a lot of italic and stub nibs, tend to have a sweet spot. So they will write, if you hold them in a very particular way, very well. And that's true of this nib. But if you hold it at a slightly different angle, it might skip a little bit. While I will say that the medium that I have for the Lamy 2000, that my original, writes just so beautifully. And another thing I have to say about it is that when I obviously hadn't used it for 2 months, when I did find it and I opened the cap and wrote with it, and it had not dried out. And that's one of the really hallmarks of a beautifully designed pen, is that the cap is designed in such a way that it makes sure that the ink stays wet as long as possible. So that's a testament to how well that the pen is designed. So here's my original Lamy 2000, original to me. Just a reminder, this pen was first designed by Gerd Mueller for Lamy in 1966. And one of the things that made it unusual is its material. At the time, was kind of space age material, macrolon, and I think it's one of these pens that very much comes out of the tradition of the Parker 51, but it's streamlined, and it still looks absolutely contemporary. It has this kind of rocket ship look to it. It has a little window so you can see the ink level. It makes this very satisfying click, which is interesting. Recently I took the pen apart, and I had the second one that I got, the OB one, and I noticed that it was missing the part that makes it click, which is this tiny little, if you can see it, but there's this little ring here. So you have to be very careful if you take the pen apart to clean it, and it just unscrews on the top. I don't want to do it because it'll get ink on my fingers. There's a little ring there, and it can easily fall out and get lost. So fortunately, you can get a replacement, but it's like $20. So that's something that I actually recently had to replace on the and it still works. The cap still will close, but it doesn't make that nice little snappy sound, and I suspect it won't make as good a seal. So just be very aware of it. Anyway, here's the original Lamy 2000. It of course has a hooded nib, and it writes like a dream. It is just one of the nicest writers. It has a bit of a feedback. It's just very, very pleasant. There's just, I can't say enough about it, how much I like the way this pen writes, and it's often on everybody's top 10 fountain pens. In terms of how much it costs, it depends on where you get it. It's sometimes as inexpensive as $200, but it lists for far more than that, and I'm sure it depends where you get it, whether it has a warranty. And so this is the medium, and it's a very broad kind of medium, and it's wet, and it's terrific. It's a piston filler pen, by the way. Okay, and here is the OB version, which stands for Oblique. You can see it seems very different. I'm not that different. I've noticed that the finish is a little different, and I'm sure that over time, depending on when you buy it, that's going to be one of the things that makes it different. I don't think you can really see that in the camera, but there's a slightly difference to the blackness of the material. And then here is the chrome silver version that is much heavier, and this is the extra fine. So I'm going to just sort of squiggle and draw around with these different things. So I've start out again, take this away, start out again drawing my usual kind of leaves. And this is the Lamy 2000 with medium nib, and this is quite thick. But you can hear it. It's not absolutely smooth, but it's very satisfying, and it has just the right wetness. So here's the Per Gustafson test with this. There is a little bit of skipping, but not, not really that much. If I press down at all, then there isn't anything at all. So anyway, this is why I was so depressed when I couldn't find this pen, because I just love the way it feels. It's very hard to describe. It really doesn't feel like any other pen. It's almost like a rollerball. Okay, so that's the Lamy 2000 medium. And here, and by the way, that was Waterman inspired blue ink. This is Takisumi, and this is the OB, Oblique. And ink is a big deal. I suppose I should have tested this with all the same ink, because Takisumi is one of my favorite blacks, but it is very lubricant. It tends to write very wet. Anyway, what you see here is if I go like this, it's definitely like a broad. But if I go like this, well, wait. So if I go like this, it's broad. If I go like this, it's a bit thinner. So I'm playing with the oblique, and it's actually quite subtle. So if I write this way, you can see it's a bit thinner. If I go this way, it's thinner, but if I go up and down, it's a bit thicker. But it's not dramatically different. It's not like, you know, it's not like an architect nib or a 1.1 stub nib. It's kind of subtle. And it also definitely has a sweet spot. And here's the extra fine. This is diamine ochre ink, a little drier. And the extra fine is a bit more like a Western fine. It's a little dry. That could be a bit about the ink, and a little scratchy. Not at all, actually doesn't have at all the feeling that I get from the medium nib. So I wouldn't go on and on about how wonderful this nib is. I'm not a big fan of extra fine nibs for writing, and this extra fine is definitely not super smooth. So between these three nibs, there's no doubt that I would be going back to the medium one, not the OB or the extra fine nib. Let me do some writing samples. Okay, so this is the Lamy 2000. This is medium, Waterman inspired blue, rhodia paper, and there isn't much line variation to it. I think this is quite wet, and I think pretty broad for a medium. Now I like broad nibs, so this is fine for me. Okay. This is the Lamy 2000 OB. And you can see that there is already a lot of line variation. This is really not I don't think this is a good pen for drawing. It is a very nice pen for writing. So this is Takisumi. And this is, again, rhodia paper. And it is black, obviously. Takisumi is black ink. And if I go there, I'm getting the thin line, the thick line, actually. So it's thicker, actually, left to right, I guess. Really depends on how you hold it. So if I go up like this, I'm getting a fairly thin line. But you notice that it's skipping a bit. It definitely has the sweet spot. So now, right here, the way I'm holding it here, is definitely the sweet spot. And you can see that it has just subtle variation. Another thing I would say about this nib is that it sings just a bit. just a tiny bit. It's not doing it right now, but it was doing it a little bit. If I hold it like this, though, it doesn't write at all, which is not true of an architect nib. So it's actually, for my hand, it's strange. I don't quite know a nib like that. When I'm holding it like this, it's incredibly smooth and pleasant to write with. But if I try, well, that's okay. Well, so as I say, you have to get used to this one. I like it a lot better. When I first tried it, I didn't like it at all. It's the Lamy 2000, but this is extra fine. This is diamine ochre, and this is rhodia paper again. And I have to say this is quite scratchy, not very wet. It's not a great writing experience. Now, is that true of other Lamy pens? It could just be this one, and maybe this one needs to be tuned. I think actually probably both this one and the other Lamy, the OB, they both could probably benefit from being tuned. Not a great nib experience. As a writer, so first of all, I find that the nib is a bit scratchy and too dry for me. But the other thing I have to say about this pen, it's gorgeous to look at. It's too heavy. It's much heavier than the normal Lamy 2000. And because of the material, it's very slippery. Well, that's not true, again, of the Lamy 2000 and the Macrolon. So as much as I like the way this pen looks, I do not recommend it, particularly as an extra fine. All right, so it'd be fun. People, I know that there are a lot of people who have Lamy 2000s. If you want to send some comments about your experience and how you feel about how it writes, or, you know, if you have, there's some, I've never been able to afford it, but there's some special editions, a dark blue Lamy 2000, you know, that I always sort of look for and hope that somebody doesn't realize what they have and they might sell it. I've always wondered why, given the fact that the Lamy nib is so praised and people like that nib, why Lamy doesn't use that nib on other pens and introduce other pens that use it. That's what I would do, but there may be reasons about cost, and maybe it's a lost leader or something, and they just do it for the prestige, and it's too expensive to do it on other pens. But if I was Lamy, I would introduce some other pens that use a similar nib to that Lamy medium. Okay, as always, if this is useful, please do subscribe.